Television, coming to you live from the nation's capital, Abuja. I am Anthony Momodu. A quick reminder that Global Television is on DSTV channel 365 and free to air on Iconsat. The Minister of State for Defense, Bello Matawali, has disclosed that the federal government has begun payment of pensions and other entitlement to retired military personnel, including 3 months arrears. The minister made this known in a statement issued in Abuja by the Director of Information and Public Relations, Ministry of Defense, Henshaw Ogbubike. Recall that retired military personnel had halted activities at the Federal Ministry of Finance in Abuja to protest their unpaid entitlement, expressing their frustration over the federal government's failure to pay the promised 20% to 28% salary increment from January to November 2024. However, Matawali said that the government has begun payment of military salary increases and the military personnel have already started receiving alerts for the payments. On education, Lord Mayor of Leeds City, United Kingdom, Abigail Katung, has advocated a multi-dimensional strategy to boosting education quality in Nigeria. Katung made the call while delivering the 22nd convocation lecture of the Igbenedion University Okada, underscoring the need for quality education in Nigeria. The Nigerian-British-born politician, while citing systematic challenges such as inadequate funding and outdated curriculum as factors hindering its development, advocated the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization UNESCO recommended budgetary provisions, transparency and effective resource utilization as strategies to enhance learning quality in the country. Also, the Minister of Education, Morufu Alausa, has assured academic unions that the President Bola Tinubu's led administration will honor agreement reached with them, while assuring that the remaining 50% of withheld salaries will be paid. Alausa, however, urged labor unions, particularly those in the education sector, to put first the welfare and education of Nigerian students by choosing dialogue over strike actions. His appeal was directed at the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASU, the Senior Staff Association of Nigerian Universities, SANU, and the Non-Academic Staff Union of Educational and Associated Institutions, NASU, and the National Association of Academic Technologists, NAT. Alausa emphasized that industrial action should be a last resort, used only after all other options have been exhausted. Vice President Kashim Shettima has called for an education system capable of addressing modern challenges. The Vice President made the call during the opening plenary of the African Student Leaders General Assembly and Ordinary Congress in Abuja. The Vice President, who was represented by Personal Assistant to President Bola Tinubu on domestic Northeast regular crude oil, contrary to claims of lacking the product, PHRC has 2 plants, including the 60,000 barrels per day facility and the 150,000 barrels per day plant. The federal government has launched the 2024 Hazard Risk Countrywide Analysis. This analysis is aimed at strengthening disaster preparedness and mitigation efforts across the country. It is against this backdrop that the Vice President Kashim Shettima called for enhanced collaboration among stakeholders to address Nigeria's vulnerabilities to disasters and climate change, as well as building a safer and more resilient Nigeria. Shettima, speaking during the launch event in Abuja, reaffirmed the federal government's commitment to safeguarding the lives and livelihoods from ecological and other risks. Nigerian Navy members of the National Assembly and a coalition of civil society organizations have rejected the proposed bill seeking to establish the Nigerian Coast Guard. The Senate Committee on Marine Transportation had initially scheduled a public hearing for November 7th, but it was postponed due to the passing of the Chief of Army Staff, General Turid Lagbaja. The bill, sponsored by Senator Wasiu Esilokun, APC Lagos, aims to create a military branch under the Ministry of Marine and Blue Economy. At the rescheduled hearing in the National Assembly Library, the Nigerian Navy led the objections, citing redundancy and potential security risk, resource constraint, and misalignment with global best practices. Amid growing controversy over the proposed tax reform bill, Governor Uzodinma has called for informed dialogue rather than baseless criticism. Speaking to Government House correspondent in Owerri, Imo State capital, the governor of Imo State, the governor urged their critics to thoroughly review the bill and provide specific recommendations for improvement. The governor stressed that tax reforms are crucial for national development and economic sustainability. He encouraged lawmakers, economists, and the citizens to collaborate in refining the bill to ensure it meets Nigeria's developmental needs. The Senate has stated that deliberations on the tax reform bills have neither been suspended nor withdrawn, affirming its commitment to advancing them through during plenary. Senate President Godswill Akpabio said the upper chamber remains focused on its mandate to represent Nigeria's interests. Akpabio further reiterated that the Senate would not be intimidated by external pressures amid the fury surrounding the bills. The president of the Trade Union Congress, Festus Osifo, has urged Nigerians not to politicize the controversial tax reform bills. Osifo also appealed to Nigerians not to introduce tribal or religious sentiments into debates surrounding the provisions of the bills, noting that the bills were good but had to undergo some tweaking to benefit the larger section of the citizenry. Speaking on television program, Osifo addressed the debate on the deductions of value-added tax, adding that such concerns should instead be compiled and sent to the National Assembly. He therefore urged the National Assembly to listen to the concerns of Nigerians on the bills and invite experts to debate its provisions and make recommendations. Edo State Police Command has ordered an investigation into the circumstances that led to the death of a former chairman of the Nigerian Labour Congress, NLC, Comrade Kaduna Ebo Ido, at the police checkpoint in Benin City. The command spokesman SP Moses Yamu said the State Commissioner of Police, Umaru Ozigi, gave the order while commiserating with the widow, family, and friends of the deceased over the loss and prayed for the repose of his soul. Reports say Kaduna was driving with his spouse on Monday in Benin City when the police stopped him and demanded his vehicle particulars, which he provided, but a discrepancy in the documents sparked a heated argument as the police were said to have accused him of driving a stolen vehicle. The situation, according to reports, degenerated into argument, and Ebo Gidom, who had become infuriated, allegedly slumped on the spot. The European Union has called on the ministries, departments, and agencies of the federal government to commit to the full implementation of the provisions of the National Disability Act. The call was made by Golta McNaught, EU's ambassador designate to Nigeria and ECOWAS, during a national dialogue held in Abuja to mark this year's International Day of Persons with Disabilities. The EU ambassador, who was represented by Ruben Alba, head of the Governance, Security and Migration section at the EU delegation to Nigeria and ECOWAS, emphasized that while the act of outlines the comprehensive policies and practices to accommodate and empower persons with disabilities, fostering an inclusive environment that values diversity and promotes social equality, it's about effective implementation. The Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS Court of Justice, has ordered the Federal Republic of Nigeria to compensate Oluwa Adebayo with 5 million naira for the violation of his right to freedom from torture. The court also ordered Nigeria to conduct a prompt, impartial, and effective investigation into the torture and prosecute those responsible. Adebayo, in a suit, accused some police officers from Ogun State of subjecting him to severe physical abuse, including beating him with the handle of an axe and tying his limbs with chains to a pole. He said the ordeal caused him physical injuries, including trauma to his scrotum, and left him suffering from significant psychological distress. The federal government has confirmed that it has commenced sacking workers with a certificate from the uncredited private tertiary institutions in Benin Republic and Togo. The federal government workers that are being dismissed are those who graduated from the institutions from 2017 to date. The spokesperson of the Office of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Shegu Imohisin, confirmed the development. You're watching Midday News on Global Television, coming to you live from the nation's capital, Abuja. When Midday News returns, Investment and Securities Bill passes a second reading. Details of these, as well as business and sports, coming right after this break. Please stay with us. The managing director of the transmission company of Nigeria, TCN, Sule Ahmed Abdulaziz, has appealed to the federal government to invest more in the power sector, as electricity is one of the major infrastructure industries and masses need for development. Abdulaziz made the appeal at the inspection of commissioned power transformers at its substations in Lagos. While commenting on the federal government's projection for power generation to increase by 10,000 megawatts by 2025, he noted that a lot of money and investment is needed. The Investment and Securities Bill 2024, aimed at transforming Nigeria's capital market and enhancing the regulatory framework, passed the second reading in the Senate. The Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC, in a statement noted that the bill, which sought to repeal the Security and Exchange Commission Act, went through second reading on the floor of the Senate. Leading the debate, the chairman of the Senate Committee on Capital Markets, Senator Osita Izunaso, highlighted that the bill was designed to establish a more robust and transparent capital market, encouraging greater investor confidence and boosting investment. Izunaso explained that the bill proposed the repeal of the Investment and the Securities Act of 2007 and the establishment of a comprehensive regulatory system to address emerging market needs such as derivatives and systematic risk management. The World Bank has announced nearly 24 billion pounds in loans and grants for some of the world's poorest nations, which it can leverage to generate a record $100 billion in total spending power. This was contained in a statement signed by the World Bank Group's president, Ajay Banga. Banga said donor countries committed $23.7 billion to reload its concessional lending arm, known as the International Development Association. According to the statement, this year's support is a slight increase from the roughly $23.5 billion pledged during the last fundraising round 3 years ago. On the foreign scene, the National Weather Service has lifted tsunami warnings for Northern California and part of Southern Oregon after a 7.0 magnitude earthquake struck the coast of Ferndale, California. According to the United States Geological Survey report, the earthquake was centered approximately 62 miles west of Ferndale at the depth of less than a mile. The Tsunami Warning Center initially issued a warning for the coast from Davenport, California to the Douglas Lane County border in Oregon, but canceled it. Humboldt County, the area closest to the epicenter, reported no casualties. Bahamas has said it rejected a proposal from the incoming Donald Trump administration to take in deported migrants as the next U.S. president seeks to follow up on pledges to slash immigration. Meanwhile, reports say Donald Trump's team has drawn up a list of countries to which it wants to deport migrants when their home countries refuse to accept them. But the Bahamas, an island nation set in the Atlantic Ocean, said it had reviewed and firmly rejected the plan. Prime Minister Philip Davis' office said his government had received a proposal from Trump and the transition team to accept deportation flights of migrants from other countries. South Korea's ruling party chief has demanded that President Yoon Suk-yeol be stripped of office. He warned that there is a significant risk the president could try to impose martial law again. Recall that President Yoon had declared martial law being forced into a U-turn as lawmakers dramatically faced down soldiers at the parliament and voted to overturn the measure as thousands protested outside. Head of Yoon's People's Power Party, Han Dong-hoon, said instead of swift suspension of President Yoon Suk-yeol, duties is necessary to safeguard the Republic of Korea and its people. And jumping into sports, the draw for the 2025 FIFA Club World Cup held in Miami, Florida has revealed the fate of the 32 participating teams, showcasing an expanded format that promises to be most competitive edition yet. This was disclosed on the tournament website and social media pages. The groundbreaking tournament that marks the dawn of a new era in global club football will take place across 12 iconic stadiums in the United States from June 15 to July 13, 2025, with 63 matches ending in a grand finale at the MetLife Stadium. Meanwhile, Philippines legend Manny Pacquiao will be among those inducted into the International Boxing Hall of Fame in 2025. The boxing organization made the announcement noting that the 45-year-old Pacquiao was a world champion from flyweight 112 pounds through to the super welterweight of 154 pounds divisions in a career that spanned from 1995 to 2021. The Southpaw superstar finished with a record of 62 wins, 8 losses, and 2 draws. Pacquiao, fellow fighter Mike Nunn, and Vinny Paz, as well as referee Bayless, among 14 individuals set to be enshrined June 5th to 8th at the Hall of Fame in Canastota, New York. Lionel Messi and Inter Miami will kick off FIFA News 32 Team Club World Cup when the Major League Soccer side take on Egypt's Al Hilal in the June 15 opener. According to the draw for the tournament revealed on Thursday, Brazilian team Palmeiras and Portugal Porto complete Group A alongside Argentina World Cup winner Messi, whose Miami team were handed a spot by FIFA after finishing top of the regular season standing in the MLS. Messi's former Barcelona teammate, Brazilian Neymar, will have a reunion with La Liga rivals and European champions Real Madrid in Group H. Meanwhile, 12 European clubs will feature in the tournament, with Manchester City facing Juventus in Group G.